I have a I have a place in Cornhill right now that I have no idea what's on my screen right now, but that's okay. I have a place in Cornhill. It's going to need some rehab. It's ARV. The after repair value is going to be somewhere around 2.25 to 250. It's probably going to go for right around 150. The guy rehabbed it, but made it so everything he did needs to be redone. It's just the work and the workmanship was just for that price of a house, not good. And then I also have a 2-family in 19th Ward. It's going to go for 70. Needs rehab. It's probably worth around 130. You're going to put somewhere around 30 into it. One unit is occupied, one unit is not. If you're interested, get a hold of me. And then I'm also looking for more properties, commercial, industrial, along with more properties. Anybody else?
So we have a small group. I'll put my 2 cents in the jar here. So properties like the one that Joe just talked about, I would be interested in looking at them as a buyer. I tell Joe this all the time, but he keeps ignoring me. So I have to broaden my list of possible wholesalers, you know, because yeah. So anything
interested in those?
Yeah, absolutely. But anything on the particularly on the east side of town, because I live on the east side of Monroe County, that would be good for me because it makes it a little bit easier. Penfield, Webster, Fairport, all those areas, western part of the city of Rochester.
Anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry, Leon. I didn't mean to, I thought you were finished.
No, that was fine. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? I know Leon.
I have someone that has a double on Glenwood Avenue. He's letting it go for 40 grand. I haven't seen it.
I think you said you have a double on
Glenwood. A picture. 471 Glenwood.
Is it occupied or
right?
What can you tell us, Tony?
Sorry. On my Bluetooth, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, your phone is
I think it's occupied. Yeah, I just got it yesterday from
Tony, either your internet connection is really bad or something's wrong with your Bluetooth. We can't really understand most of what you're saying, and it's coming through really, really delayed.
Sounds like you're on Mars.
Do this.
You want to try it again?
Hold on.
Yeah, Tony, your connection's bad. Sorry.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can't hear you, Tony. Sorry. You may have to get a better connection.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Either that or put it in the chat. Anybody else? Everybody's good. First of all, because look, we have a small intimate group here, which is nice. We got a couple of, first of all, does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to go over? I don't care if it's a deal you're looking at, something you want to know about, a question, anything. Don't be afraid to speak up. I know there's some new people on here, or if you've been on here, put it out there. Anybody?
Yeah, there's a lot of rezoning going on in the city. I don't know if anybody's noticed that I'm getting lots of cards for a lot of the areas that the houses that I own property in. And they're going to a lot of multi-family units now. I don't know if anybody's seen this or aware of what's going on, but several different areas of the city.
Wait, Glenn, do you mean they're trying to put up
They're
more?
they're changing the zoning on a lot of these large areas in the city. Webster Avenue area over that way.
Okay,
There's a huge swath of homes there or parcels they're changing to multi-use, multifamily.
I don't know, I didn't notice. Anyone else been noticing that? That's good to know, actually.
I've been getting a lot of cards. You know, whenever there's a zoning change or a new meeting, the city will send you a postcard or something like that. I don't know how I got onto that list, but
You know, one of the things for that too, if somebody finds a 2-family over there that was deconverted back to a single, and it's at least 2,300 square feet, it'll give you a better chance of getting it converted back to a 2-family.
yeah,
So that's actually something to consider. It's not 100% guarantee. At the same time, we've done that a few times.
well, yeah, I know that for quite a while they were forcing these deconversions. If you were buying something that was boarded up at auction, that was a conversion, they wouldn't let you continue it that way, continue that use.
Mm-hmm. You have to be able to, what we did was we actually went to them and then we had to hire an architect to go in there and they measured it has to be at least 2,200 square feet, but you have to be able to show, you know, you wouldn't get the use of it and it's going to stay boarded up that way. And the city will, you know, if it fits certain criteria, you know, sometimes they'll be like, hey, you know what? Okay, we'll let it go back to a 2-family. It's better than leaving it there vacant and boarded up.
I know there's a nationwide push for cities to allow multifamily and ADUs, accessory dwelling units. I'm not sure if this is part of that push or not, but it is very much a blue state priority to address housing shortages and stuff. So I wonder if this goes hand in hand with the surveys and everything that they're doing, just on a broader level.
Yeah, this ought to work well with rent issues.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the city, particularly, well, there was areas of the city that were, let's just say, not the best. And I noticed even a few years ago, particularly within the last year, the city has really been looking for people to actually take vacant lots and start to put properties on it. So if you're in the Clinton, Joseph Avenue, and you are south of Clifford Avenue, then, you know, there's so many housing starts there, it's just unbelievable. They're building multi-units complexes in that area. And if you look at it from a location and geography perspective, it's really close to downtown. So if you go over and you go into the North Union area, they're doing the same thing there. And of course, on South Union, you have so many new apartment complexes that are being built. It's if you go through there and you haven't been through there in the last 2 years, you'll be just completely surprised at the number of apartment complexes that are being built right now. Some of them have actually been completed. So I think it fits in with what Andy just said, where they're looking to basically create a whole new group of houses just for people who will be tenants. Surprisingly, the rent on those properties, if you sort of take a look at them, it's right up there. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah. Now, Leon, you gotta be careful with stuff like that too, because I talked to a guy I'm dealing with right now. He's got a 4-unit over there on Main Street, but over by Goodman. And he completely has got to be gutted. He paid 30,000 for it. And what he did was, because it, you know, it backs up over there, not too far from, he took his numbers instead of staying within that area there. He started taking the numbers from the 14607, which is University, East Avenue, Park, all that stuff. And so he bought this place and then realized that, oh, wow. Because he was figuring on getting over, you know, $1,200 a month when it was actually going to be around $8. So he was going to be making over $1,000, $1,200 a month minimum, less than what he figured too. So, you know, and some of the areas that they're developing, which is great, at the same time, you know, where he's at, it was very close to where everything was happening. So, you know, it's just, so a lot of times I tell people is that, you know, it's going to take a little bit, even though they're building the new houses, you got to be careful. You know, certain parts of Union Street, those areas are great. It's fantastic. Where he came in, I mean, he's in trouble. I mean, he's going to take, he's probably going to take a $15,000 loss because he's to the point now where he's done. And, you know, and I was very nice, but he thought he was going to get very high end type people there, but not in the very beginning. Eventually they're going to want to connect down the road. Yes. And I told them, you know, you want to be a pioneer, and the pioneers are the first ones to get shot at. Okay. So, you know, and then, but he realized this, you know, which is why I'm trying to work out a deal on that property right now. I mean, I feel bad for the guy, but he's got to cut his losses. I mean, this place probably needs, oh God, it's got to be somewhere around $60,000 to $80,000 worth of work minimum. So, and he's going to take, I feel bad for the guy. So for people, it's great. At the same time, be very careful. Okay.
Why you need a good team. Ask advice.
Yeah, good
I have a
team.
question. In an area, if they're building multi-units, now I'm not talking about one and two family. I'm talking about where they're like over by Hudson and I think Upper Falls over there. They seem to be building apartments.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that that's probably an area to stay out of, just because of the, I guess, competition. Or that there's so much available housing that it's, you know, you wouldn't really want to be trying to compete with that. Is that wrong, or?
Go ahead.
I'm going to say it depends on what they're doing in the area. You know, if there really is as much of a push and as much of a housing shortage as they say there is, then what they're building now and what they're building, you know, every year for the next 5 years is going to be occupied quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from a investment standpoint, the newer product creates a push into people wanting to go there. Like when the neighborhood of the Arts turned around, it went from, oh my God, I'm not going to live there 20 years ago to, wow, look, you can walk everywhere. You've got the brewery, you've got, you know, everything over at the factory. You've got, you know, office spaces, you've got new apartments going up, you've got this, that, and the other thing. It's a beautiful neighborhood now. You know, there's trees everywhere. Everything is well manicured and groomed. Property values are going up. So even if you choose, you know, not to hold it beyond 5 or 10 years, you strike while the iron's hot. It's a good opportunity to get in. If the time comes where you just can't find tenants or you're giving it away, you just cut your losses and get out at that point. Take the money you made for 10 years.
Well, the other thing too is going to be price, Leslie. Get it at a price where you know it's going to work regardless. Okay. Don't, you know, I've seen some people like, well, stuff's going on over there. They're going to pay retail, and then all of a sudden they want to get out and they're having a problem. Okay. So like for me, I don't stay out of any areas. It's all going to boil down to price. because all of a sudden, if you get it for half price. You know, you've got, you know, worst case scenario, you rent it for a little bit lower, but you're still making a great return. Or you fix it up just as nice, and you're going to be right up there with those other places. Because not everybody wants apartments. Some people want houses. So, you know, not all are going to be able to afford 3-bedroom apartments in those new places, especially since some of the rents are higher. So for me, it's again, price. It's all I care about.
But now the 3-bedroom apartments are still going to be cheaper than to rent than a 3-bedroom house.
Depends where you're at.
But like areas like that, let's say South Clinton area, they're doing things that opened up the marketplace and all of that. Is that I look at that and I'm kind of wondering, is this really going to do anything for this area, or is this kind of like a futile attempt the city is making? I don't know.
I don't know. Anyone have any experience over there?
I think it's going to come down to who the developers are that are working in the market and what kind of quality work they do, as well as the management companies that move in to operate whatever they're going to open up. That's if like there are companies that get a rap because whether good or bad, because of how they run their business and how they operate their properties. And you can tell pretty quickly when somebody questionable moves into a market to take stuff over, whether they're going to just milk it for profit and just let them run down and become, you know, derelicts, or if they're going to spend the money and do the capital improvements and do the preventive maintenance. And, you know, if you know somebody moves in and just defers maintenance for 4 years and then they sell the property after 4 years, you know that that's not a good area to be in. And if they're all over the place over there, there's 3 or 4 guys doing the same thing, stay away. You know, it comes down to knowing who's out there and how they operate their business.
Yep. Agree with that.
Basically, it depends on the guys that are going in, and I guess you have to know who's going in, moving into those areas.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Anyone else have any other questions or anything they want to go over or anything they were looking at? All right. So because we have a small group here, which is fantastic, there's a couple of things here. First of all, I've been getting, I know we talked a few weeks ago about short sales. And I've been getting more phone calls on short sales from other people. And I know we went over on how to approach people on short sales. People having problems trying to get people to understand them. Okay. And then I've also been talking to people, and people are asking me questions on how to do negotiating and negotiate prices and how, you know, how you're able to get someone down on a price when all of a sudden in their heads they're stuck on the price. And, you know, and there's like a certain sequence of questions that I ask people, and there's a reason why I do that, because you never want to get into, you know, a confrontation with somebody telling them, because I've seen some people handle issues with negotiating. Sometimes I'm on a 3-way call with them and I'm just cringing because I know what the seller is thinking right now. But the investor, whether they're new or whatever, they just don't know. They're not doing it on purpose. So I'm going to give everybody here a choice. We need to talk about short sales, or we could talk about negotiating. I'm going to leave it up to the group here. What do you guys want to go over? And let me know here, please.
I myself would like to hear about negotiating. Yeah, negotiating crosses all paths. You know, it's kind of, yeah, it's a big part. Yeah, I would like to hear more about negotiating myself. I don't know about anybody else.
Scott, the only one speaking up today? By the way, welcome, Scott. Scott's the other leader of this group. He's down in Virginia right now. He's gracing
thanks.
us with his presence.
Yeah, sorry I'm a little late, everybody. Just a few things going on this morning. Had a hard time connecting, but jumped in the car, jumped on the tablet, and I'm gonna drive for a bit, but I'm gonna listen in. And if anybody has any questions for me, you sure can ask them.
No, but
Anybody else?
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree with Scott, though. I think negotiating would be a great idea.
So we're going to talk about negotiating. Everybody okay with that?
Nobody's disagreeing, Joe.
All
Everybody.
right, I'll take that. All right. All right. So, and by the way, feel free to interrupt and ask questions, by the way. Okay. I've had, I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. This was yesterday, as a matter of fact. Yesterday, I was going back as a gentleman who he's sort of a newer investor, and he has a gentleman who lives, he lives actually, oh, where the heck is he? I don't remember. He's out of state, wherever, but he's got a 2-family, and the gentleman was talking to him, the investor was, and he referred me over the property. And basically, he says, listen, go there, take a look at the property. The house is vacant. It's a 2-family. It's over Maplewood area. The guy wants somewhere in the 50s. It's worth probably around $130,000 to $140,000. It's vacant. Get in there, do what you got to do. I go over there. It's not vacant. I almost broke in. Guy tells me, just break in. Okay. It was a screen there. I popped open the screen. We're looking. Oh man! And I talked to neighbors. Oh yeah, there's people living in there. They jumped the electric box. They messed. There's a 2-family. Both units. They're cooking. They're cooking on the porch. But that's besides the point. So I talked to the investor and I told him, hey, listen, we got to talk to the seller. Because the seller thinks it's vacant, the seller thinks this and that. So I let him do it. And he calls back and says, hey, the seller says he just wants a price. He doesn't want to talk. And I was very nice. And I said, did you tell him what's going on? Well, not really. And so I said, give me his number. So all I did was text him. Now, this investor had been talking to him over the course of a week. And so I very nicely sent him one text message. And his next response was, yes, please call me. So right after I'm done with this Zoom meeting this morning, I'm calling this guy, okay? And basically, it's just there's a certain way you got to be able to deal with people, and there's a certain sequence of questions that I ask people. Okay, with this particular person, it was a little bit different because I had it over text messages. But when I talk to the guy, one of the things that I do is that because what I see a lot of people do when it comes to negotiating, someone comes in and says, hey, listen, I want $85,000 for this house. Okay. And I know, we all know it's probably not worth it. And let's just say the house is worth $110,000. Okay. Now, typically when I know I have to get it for less than that, and a lot of times what I see a lot of people doing, they go in there and say, well, I can't pay you that. Or sometimes I've actually had people say, oh, that's way too high. That's just crazy. Now, subconsciously, unconsciously, the seller is pissed off, and the seller has to justify his price. Okay. And when they do that, you've pretty much already lost. Okay. And I've been on 3-way calls where I've seen the seller just get really, really mad. Now listen, I had them get mad at me. It's going to happen. It is what it is. One of the things that I say to them, again, because I don't want to sit there and beat them up on the price. And I asked them, and one of the first things I asked them, I go, okay, Okay, I understand. You want $85,000 for this property. At the same time, I assume the roof, the windows, the siding, the furnace, the hot water tank, the kitchen, and the bathrooms are all within 5 years. Is that correct, Mr. Seller? And I say it very, very nicely. And I don't say that to them in a way like, listen, that thing better be, you know, within 5 years old. I say, listen, obviously I assume it's all within 5 years old. And the reason why I do that is because I want them to start thinking, oh, well, it's really not. Maybe it's not. I start planting that little seed in them because I don't want to be adversarial to them. I just don't. And I see way too many people handle it in such a way where the people get mad. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever gotten yelled at by some of the sellers. Okay. Now you're going to get some sellers who just don't care. Okay. I talked to a guy 3 days ago on a house he has on Phelps Street. And Phelps, if you know where it is, it's off between Lake Avenue and Bacchus Street. You know, you're not too far from Bloss and all those other areas there. And I'm talking to this guy, and he goes, well, I've done this, and this, and this to it. And I said, well, you know, I want to be respectful of your time. I'm going to be somewhere probably maybe in the 40s. And he goes, I wouldn't sell that house if you offered me at least, you have to give me more than $80,000. Now that guy over there, there was no negotiating. It's like the old adage goes, it's easier to give birth than it is to raise the dead, give birth to a new deal. Okay. So what I did was I was very nice. I said, listen, I appreciate your time. And I just kindly moved on because it just, you know, I could tell from the conversation, it just wasn't going anywhere because this guy thought he knew everything, did everything, and I'll let him be right. It's not a problem for me. Okay. Talking to, you know, talking to these other people where I've been able to start saying, hey, listen, you know, I understand you want $85,000 at the same time. And they tell me no to any one of those questions, especially if it's a kitchen or a bathroom. Well, no, you know, the kitchen was done, you know, 25 years ago. And we all get that a lot. I go, okay, how about the bathroom? And then what I start doing is that I start talking to them, and I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to talk to them and say, hey, listen, I don't use the I. Well, listen, you know, if I have to sell this, if I have to make money, I have to get it for this price. I don't put the I in it. Okay. What I start talking about is, especially if it's a flip, I start telling them, I go, hey, listen, you know, it's not me. At the same time, when this house gets sold, the new buyer, they're going to come in and they're going to beat me up because they're going to see that, hey, listen, you know, and I'm working with a seller. I say, Mr. Seller, yes, the house is worth 110. You're right. At the same time, you know, I'm going to have to do the kitchen. I'm going to have to do the bathroom. I'm going to have to do all these different things, which is obviously going to cost me money because when the new buyer comes in there and they want to buy the house and the inspector comes in there, they're going to beat me up on the price. So I start, you know, I don't want to be adversarial in any way possible, any way, form. I want to be able to have like an actual conversation with them. Does it always work? No. At the same time, it lets people realize that, hey, you know what? You're trying to work with them. Okay. And by the way, anybody have any questions so far? Because I don't want to do all the talking here. So I want to be able to answer questions. I know some people have been having a lot of issues when it comes to negotiating. Anything? Everybody's good? Has anybody even had any issues with negotiating lately, especially in this market? Nobody's had not one issue. I'm the only one? Okay.
Well, I have, Joe. I don't want you to feel like you're alone on this call. You know, I've been negotiating a few things, and it's for me, you know, trying to get some financials and such. It's been a challenge. you know, because of self-storage, I have, you know, it's, you have had issues there. Just trying to get people to give me the proper financials, you know, not everybody keeps the financials that they should, and people don't want to share them and blah, blah, blah. So I've been having a real struggle with that myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know a lot of times some of these people, they've got the properties and they have a certain prices in their head. And, you know, once you have that conversation, we actually did a 2-family where the owner originally wanted in the 60s. She was originally at 70. Then she was in the 60s, says, I won't take $1 less than 50. And by the time we were done talking and I showed them what was going on, I didn't go at them adversarially. And then just like you, Scott, going over the numbers, once we did that, we ended up getting the property for $37,500, and we're paying for closing costs, and I'm taking it as is. Okay. All because exactly what I just told everybody just now. And by the way, this was not even 14 days ago. So everything I'm talking about was all within days or within the last couple of weeks. Okay. So the other issue is that when it comes to negotiating, especially in this market, some people are like, I don't need to negotiate. This is a hot market. So how are you able to show people, hey, listen, instead of listing it, I'm a sure thing, I'm a cash buyer, that they need to go with you? Okay. And one of the things that I'm doing is that I just sent out a purchase offer yesterday for a place. Retail value is somewhere right around 3 and change, maybe 3 1/4 to 350. Figure 3 1/4. The guy could have listed it. It needed an ungodly amount of work, and we're buying it for, I'll tell you the numbers. We're buying it for $95,000. Okay. And the reason why we're doing that is because, number one, the guy had 3 other people that wanted to buy the property. And one of the 2 things was actually 3 things was really, really important to this guy. Number one, he liked me. And by the way, I've never met this man once. I've only talked to him over the phone. Okay. And number 2, he says, you know what? You actually understand exactly what we went through, what we're going through, what's happened to the house. And number 3, he had confidence in me to be able to close on the property. Okay. Now, originally, he was in the mid hundreds, somewhere right around there. But he liked the fact that, number one, he knew that I would be able to close on it. Okay. And by the way, the guy that I'm talking to after this call for that 2-family that lives out of state, after I texted him and he says he wants to talk to me, he asked me, he goes, just out of curiosity, what's your experience or what's going on? And of course, I sent him my website, but more importantly, I said, I've done probably close to 50 properties in that area. And if you talk to most real estate attorneys, they know me pretty well. So you're more than welcome. I sent him my name, and he was just like, looking forward to talking to you tomorrow. That was his text message, because he needs to get out of this situation, and he sees me as being the light at the end of his tunnel. Okay. So that right there in negotiating alone will get you a lot farther. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I've had people take my offer and I offered them less, simply because they had more confidence in me because of the way that I was speaking to them and talking to them versus other people. Okay. I mean, Scott, I mean, how are you handling some of the stuff when you have to negotiate? Because by the way, Scott's buying what, his 7th storage facility up and down the East Coast. So he deals in numbers that have more commas and more zeros.
It, for me, and I even wrote it down, get the people to like you and understand what they want, and give them the confidence that you'll close. I think that a lot, and I just wrote it down because sometimes I forget that, and that's what it is. People are going to deal with people that they like. If they don't have confidence in you, if you're quote unquote belittling them, or talking bad about something that's their baby, you've already lost. And that when I talk with other investors that are negotiating on properties, I'm just like, look, typically you have, if there's a realtor involved, you have the seller, the realtor, and the seller's attorney. And we're going through it right now with one that we're negotiating. I'm like, okay, who's your friend in this group, of 3? Who do you have a good relationship with? And in this case, he has a good relationship with the realtor and also with the seller. But and that's what he's doing, is he's just using that. He's going to the person that is friend, because the attorney is causing some issues, and we just got to work through that. But the seller likes him. The seller knows that we'll close. I'm saying he'll close, but I'm partnering in on this. And that's the thing. And the seller wants to move to Florida, but he can't right now. And we got one, it's a sticking point right now in the financing, and we might just have to take a stance. And, we've pretty much told him it's a deal breaker if you won't do this part. But we were polite about it. We're like, look, we have other investors we have to protect, this, that, the other. You're getting a nice, healthy down payment. And we're financing the other part of it. And our investors want to be in first position. So he was okay with that, and the realtor was okay with that, but the attorney got a little twisted up, and he's offering legal advice, and we understand that. But so we went back to the seller and the realtor and told them, look, we can close. You're going to be getting your healthy down payment, and we're going to perform on the property. So that's where we're at, and we're negotiating that today. He's actually going back to the realtor and the seller again today to kind of smooth that out and see what happens. So, but it all comes down to people are going to do business with people that they like. For the most part, they want to feel comfortable, that they're selling their property, their investment, to somebody who's going to take care of it, or take it and turn it into something that they want to. That's most people. There are people who are just like, hey, it's all about dollars. I don't care about relationships. I don't care about you, but they still want somebody who can close. And I know a lot of investors, I'm going to say with air quotes, that they put in offers, but they never intend to close. And I think that comes across. Like, Joe has a confidence that he's going to close, and people see that confidence, and they feel that confidence in him that he's going to close one way or another. He's going to get the deal closed. So, and that's what people want. A lot of people are just like, they've checked out, they want to move on, and they know that Joe will do it. So that's a long ramble, I know, but that's kind of where I'm at with things.
Scott, what do you do with people if they're not going to be negotiable on the price?
Try to get better terms.
And what if that doesn't work? I mean, what I mean by that, okay, try to get, that's actually a good thing. At the same time, if you know that they're just so out of whack and out of touch with what's really going on, or, I mean, do you just say, you know what, maybe we'll follow up? Do you just say, you know what, I'd rather spend my time somewhere? What do you do?
Yeah, next. I don't fall in love with anything. It's just next. I'm not going to try to fight them. If the terms just don't work for me, I'm not going to do it. So I just move on to the next one, and I follow up with them. You still maintain that relationship with them and say, hey, sorry, the deal doesn't work for me at this point. I wish you luck. I hope you sell it for what you're looking to get for it. It just doesn't work for me at this time. That, you know, if things change for you, give me a call and let me know. So that's how I leave things.
I think that that's a very important point. Because in a lot of cases, when you have people who are at a certain point, and they are very rigid and they're not going to move, then it's just important to recognize that this is not a deal for me. It may be a deal for someone else, but it's not a deal for me. And the best thing for me to do is to move on, because in the end, it needs to work for you. The key thing to do is to try to make sure you always balance out with what I just said, but at the same time, make sure you cover all the bases that Joe and Scott have outlined, because then you're really making it less of you versus them, and you're looking at the numbers and how it fits for you and your situation. Because it's every time you get a call from a seller, it doesn't mean that it's a deal. It's a deal if it works for them and it works for you. And absolutely, I think one of the most important things that for myself I had to learn was that it's very important that you interact with that seller, and in the end, the seller leaves the session, whether it's the first one or the last one with you, and they view it as what you should view it as. That person is leaving with at least the same level of self-esteem around them and their property as they did when they first started talking to me. The real thing you want to do is to have them actually feel better. And it's because of the fact that you may end up coming back and negotiating with that person again, maybe on a different property or something else. And living in Rochester, or basically anywhere, I mean, with the internet and all those things now, the world is a very small place. And your reputation, how you interact with them, that's something that a lot of people are going to find out about. And you always want that to be positive.
Yeah. And another thing too, Leon, what Scott said at the end, which is absolutely key. The worst thing to say to somebody, Scott says, and I always say the same thing: if things change, please call me. Don't ever say, if you don't sell the property, call me. Because in their minds, number one, they're going to have to prove you wrong. And number two, if they don't sell the property, they're not going to call you. Because all of a sudden, especially if it's a guy, it's their ego. Well, obviously I didn't sell the property, so now I got to call this guy. Don't ever. I've seen people say that, and I want to just freak out, you know, especially if I'm on a three-way call with somebody. And I always say to them, listen, if things change, please keep me in mind. Okay. It's a much softer way of maintaining a relationship. And then I also say, just like Scott, you know, I say, listen, what I'm going to do is I don't ask. I don't say, can I call you in a month? Say, listen, just so that way you know, I'm going to call you in maybe another month or so. And hopefully you'll have sold the house for $1 million, and you can get on the phone with me and you can gloat. You can say, I told you I sold it. I'm going to be very happy, because that means you've raised all the comps in the area, which means you're going to make me happy also. Okay. I never ask, can I call you in another month? Well, that's a yes or no question. I ask a yes or yes question. Just so that way you know, I'm going to be calling you in another month. Okay. And I've had to follow up with people sometimes for a year. It took a year to get the deal. It's just because we had to follow up. Okay. I just did that the other day. We're working on a house in Irondequoit. The sister who lives there is refusing to leave. The mom passed away. They're supposed to sell the house. We've been dealing with these people for almost a year now. Yeah, it's been almost a year. And it's a great house. We get it at a really good price. And the last thing the brother-in-law said to me, because it's his wife's sister, obviously, who's there, who's being uncooperative. He goes, listen, Joe, you've been really great. You've been following up, you know, and he goes, listen, I got you in my phone as Joe, the real estate guy. And as soon as we know something, I said, I understand that. I appreciate that. At the same time, I'm going to follow up within another month. Okay, great. Doesn't have a problem with that, you know. And one of the things that he said to me, because I understand, you know, obviously there's all kinds of family issues going on in the house, and I told him, I said, listen, I've dealt with this kind of stuff many times before. He goes, I can tell. He goes, and we appreciate your patience and we appreciate your understanding. And he goes, listen, man, I've been getting letters and cards and all kinds of stuff from other people. He goes, but you're the one I'm talking to. I said, great, let's keep it that way. So he laughs, I laugh, and so at least that way we know we have at least a relationship to keep moving farther. Okay. And by the way, any questions? Anything? Does everybody understand what we're talking about, or has anybody gone through exactly what we've been talking about? So when I asked Scott what he does, and the reason why when I asked Scott if there's somebody who is non-negotiable, about 3 weeks ago, we looked at an industrial space over in Gates, and it had guy bought it a year or so ago, and he was going to use it for his business, but he didn't end up needing the space, and he rented out 2 of the other spaces. Guy paid just under $300 for it, and he wanted $400,000 in a year. Okay, 20-year tenants all pay way below market rent, and then he wanted to rent back. So I'm over there. We went to go look at the place. Really nice place. I was very interested in it until we got into the real numbers. And the guy wanted to rent the space for basically, well, the 2 spots he was renting out, like $750 each, should have been rented out for right around close to $1,200 a month. And the space he wanted to rent should have been somewhere around about $2,000 to $2,500 a month. He wanted us to pay $400,000 plus rent the property back from him, or he wanted to rent it back from us. He wanted to pay somewhere around $1,000 a month. So when I went over the numbers with him, that was very nice. We would have been paying him. We would have been automatically in the red. We would not be making any money. And it was very nice. I was there. He had, I think it was his son or partner, Coke. I don't know who the heck he was, but he's always talking to me. And when I went over the numbers with him, and I showed him how we would literally be losing money at that price. First words out of his mouth wasn't, oh, I understand this. He goes, that's no big deal for you. You can afford it. That's the first thing that came out of his mouth. And I was like, right there, tells me he doesn't care about anything, but basically him making the money. It was not going to be a win-win. It was a win. It wasn't even a win-lose. It was a win. You are the biggest sucker in the world, and you're going to lose this property situation. Okay. I was very nice. And I asked the guy, I go, okay, do me a favor then. Obviously, I must be missing something. Because I was trying to work with him just a little bit. And I asked him, I go, help me with these numbers, please. Because am I missing something? And of course, I wasn't. And of course, he couldn't make the numbers work. But then he went right back to, well, you can afford it. You got money. It's no big deal to you. So he wanted us to pay $100,000 more for a property he didn't do anything with and lose money every single month. And by the way, I told the guy, I was very nice. I said, you do realize once we have to go to refi this thing out, we'll never get what we need to get out of this. And again, same thing. So I left it at, listen, I hope you sell this place for $1 million. I hope you, oh, he laughs, goes, I'm not gonna sell this place for $1 million. I hope you do. At the same time, just like Scott Spear said to AT, if things change, please keep us in mind. Realistically, he overpaid for the property. All three of us, those three of us that went there, he should have paid no more than $250,000 for this property. He paid $300,000. The reason why? Because he was going to use it for his own business. And by the way, he had two separate entities or businesses. So he bought it, overpaid for it, and his business was paying him back for the property. So he was double dipping. So he was making money all the way around. So for him, it worked. But for anybody else, it wasn't going to work. Okay. Again, it's easier to give birth than it is to raise the dead. Give birth to a new deal. And so I left it just like that with him. Okay. Any questions so far? I know I'm doing all the talking, which I don't like doing. Scott, you want to add anything onto this? You have anything you want to go over on this or anything else you want to add to this? I don't know if we lost Scott or not. Scott's still on?
Yeah, Scott's here, but I don't know if he's frozen or not.
He's frozen.
He's
probably in a dead zone. His camera's on and his mic is on, but he's not moving.
Oh my gosh, it's a still picture of him. Okay. Another thing that I do too, by the way, and I've talked about this before, I never use the word but. I never ever use the word but whenever I talk to anybody, especially when it comes to negotiating. If you're a guy, you'll understand this. You ever ask a girl out and the girl says, I'd like to, but there's no yes coming up. You ever ask your boss for a raise? I'd like to give you a raise, but you think you're going to get a raise? No. Okay. But is the most destructive word in the English language. Whenever you talk to someone and they ask you for something and then all of a sudden the word but comes up, they unconsciously, subconsciously exhale. Their shoulders will drop. Sometimes their heads will drop forward. Their eyes will look down on the ground because they know what's coming. It's not a yes. It's 100% no. Okay. And whenever I talk to a seller, a lot of times they'll ask for a price and I know I can't pay that price. Okay. Again, and I'm not covering everything. I'm being very general just to give people there's a lot more to this than just this. Okay. Than what we're going over here. But whenever I talk to them, and let's just say someone says, I'll go back to that $85,000 example. Mr. Seller, I'd like to give you $85,000. And at the same time, I can give you, I can offer you $60,000. And here's why. Okay. You're telling them the exact same thing. It's just a lot softer. Okay. Your strength of language will always correlate with your bank account. And in this case, it's a nicer way of telling people, I'd like to give you $85,000, but as soon as they say the word but, all of a sudden that seller unconsciously, subconsciously has to defend that price. Okay. And when I tell them, and at the same time, I can offer you $60,000 and here's why. It's just, you just get a different reaction. Unless it was just like that guy who wanted the $400,000 and just didn't care because, he thought every person that has money wants to buy an investment to lose money. Okay. And you're going to get those people. So I want to keep things as non-confrontational as possible. I want to have a conversation with them. It's not about just going back and forth. And please, I've had people call and say, Joe, I need to know how to answer every single question, every single person. Impossible. It's not going to happen because not every conversation is exactly the same. I wish it was. I wish it was cookie cutter. But you're gonna meet some people who are just off in la la land, and you're gonna meet some people who are actually very realistic, and some people are going to be in the middle. Okay, so this is not. And by the way, everything I'm telling you isn't made to manipulate people. It's not meant to be used in that spirit, and it's not meant to be used that way. If it is, you're going to lose in the end. Okay, I'm just trying to help you get on the same side of the fence with people. Because whenever we walk through a door, regardless, we're the adversary. We're the guy trying to, or the woman trying to buy that property at a super low price, where we're going to steal the property and we're going to make $1 million. Okay. So, you know, and I've seen people go in that way. I've made that mistake in the very beginning. Okay. And again, you know, you'll learn. At the same time, you know, especially right now in this market, it's very, you know, you got to have that little bit extra above and everybody else. I mean, everybody's out there trying to get properties, and we all know a ton of people who aren't getting them. So the other issue that I'm seeing is that when somebody who's been struggling to find a property, all of a sudden, here comes the negotiating part, they failed. Okay. And just those little tweaks. And by the way, there's a heck of a lot more involved when it comes to negotiating than just some of the things that, you know, that we've been talking about. Okay. So you know, go out there and see how people negotiate. Everybody's different, but you need to tailor it to your personality. Okay. And by the way, and I tell this all the time, if I'm talking to Leon, I'm talking to him differently. Leon is a numbers-oriented, left-brain type person. He wants to know about numbers. He doesn't care about being able to take his money, go off on vacation. I talk to him in zeros and ones, okay? When I'm talking to somebody who's a nurse or a doctor or a psychologist, someone who wants to, those are people who like to help people. They typically want to sell their property, because especially if I'm talking to somebody, so why are you selling the property? I want to be able to, you know, I want to be able to send my kid to college. I want to be able to help out my daughter. I want to be able to do this. I don't talk to them about getting a return on investment. You sell this property, return on investment. No, you sell this property, you're going to be able to, listen, I know you want $85,000. At the same time, I can offer you $60,000. Here's why. And at the same time, this will also be able to help your son or daughter be able to go to college, or be able to take care of her, maybe be able to pay off, maybe be able to take care of their wedding, whatever the reason is. Okay. And then what will also happen too is you'll still have a nice little chunk of change left over, because maybe they have a brother or a sister, cousin, niece, nephew, parents, whatever. Take that money down the road. You can also save up, maybe do something else with it, and maybe use that money to be able to help them also. Okay. It's a whole different language that I use with those people. Questions? Everybody's got this? Everybody has anything they want to add?
Joe, I guess I would have a request for you. I mean, I've heard you talk on this subject before, and I know that there's some basic, I use the word training to, that you would suggest to people, books that you've read, courses that you've looked into or taken. I think it's really good for people to know what that is, so that they recognize the fact, number one, for you, this wasn't something that came like very easy. You really had to do some studying and hone your skills. And so I think for folks to know what some of those things are would be helpful.
There's tons of books. One of the first books I ever read, the one that taught me the word "but," is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I am not kidding you when I'm about to tell you right now. I read that book, and I read actually it was the original version. That's the one that taught me about the word "but." okay, and a bunch of other things on that book. That book, and I am not exaggerating, has made me, it has to be in the millions. And I am not kidding you. All because I took the things that I learned from there, which were so simple. And by the way, what I liked about that book was that there were actually stories. Facts tell, stories sell. I'm a stories type person, which is why I like to use a lot of examples. I don't use examples to impress people. I use it because that's how I communicate. That's my way I like to communicate. Okay, it's easier for me. In school, I sucked. Okay, if school's about stories, I would add A. But I was a C, D, actually mostly D student, but that's a whole other story. But I love that. I love watching. And by the way, all this stuff, you can go on YouTube. It's free. It's free. Okay. I love John Maxwell. John Maxwell trains and talks about working with people, how to deal with people. One of the greatest books, which is about 5 years old now, was Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Fantastic book. God, there's so many I can't even think right now. But you know, the thing that I tell people is that, because I've had some people, you know, all of a sudden, you know, they'll go and check some of these resources out, and then they'll write it down verbatim, and then they'll sound like they're reading it. You have to have your personality to it, okay? And that is going to be the key. And yes, it took me a while to learn all this. I'm still learning, believe me. I'm still learning every single day, but those are some good resources. And then YouTube, you know, is just a ridiculous, easy way to find things to learn from. You can just Google stuff, negotiating tactics. Some of the stuff, you know, some stuff is out of date, some of it's not, but you can learn from all of them. I still listen to stuff all the time. I've listened to stuff sometimes 20, 30 times. If you're not where you want to be, keep listening. You know, that's what I tell people. Keep listening, whatever it is you're listening to, and keep expanding it. Anyone else have anything that they call as far as for what they use for resources? I can't be the only one. I don't know if Ivan's trying to speak right now, or if you are, you're on mute.
Yes. How y'all doing? It's been a while. Hello, everybody.
Doing very well. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I wasn't sure if this was the meeting for it. I've been tuned in, but I just been looking for resources. I'm going through what all the landlords going through as far as this rent and tenants not paying rent, and you can't kick them out. They got me to the point where I'm ready to tear up my own property to make these people uncomfortable. The girl already tore up, broke 12 windows, ain't paid no rent, her and the boyfriend fighting. My house is in distress. It looks horrible. The other tenant, I let them break their lease to move out because they couldn't deal with the girl next door. So I'm not getting no money for a duplex. It's just a nightmare. And I don't know what to do.
So Ivan, for something like that, we have at the beginning, actually next Thursday morning, there's the housing meeting, housing provider meeting, which is geared toward landlording, which is actually a bad word. I got to say housing providers. Those are the ones you get some good resources on. You can also connect with a bunch of people that can actually give you advice in regards to what you can and can't do. Okay, that's the one. It's gonna be same time, just gonna be next Thursday morning. Also go to the website, FFREIA.com. That's the Freedom First website. That's our website. And you can Google, actually you can take a look. It'll show you what's going on, resources, people, and things of that nature. Okay. So that is something you can definitely do.
And that's going to be an in-person and an online meeting, so you can join either way.
Oh, I forgot. Thank you for reminding me. I can't wait. In person. That's going to be fantastic. Yeah. So anyone else have any other resources that they want to recommend here? Because I know we're going to be wrapping up here pretty soon here.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what you said about YouTube. I get sucked into that for like 3 or 4 hours an evening. There's just so much great stuff up there.
Yeah,
I recommend it. I've referred a lot of people to it as well. You know, they ask me questions. So
what do you watch on there? Who do you recommend on there, Glenn?
I've been watching a lot of the, what's his name, John there. There's a lot of, what's
John
going on with the
Maxwell.
markets. What's that?
John Maxwell?
Yeah. Yep. And there's a lot of stuff going on with predictions for the markets and what's going to happen with all the inflation and all the
Yeah.
ridiculous printing of money that our government's doing now. So there's a lot of people that are kind of flip-flopping. So you really have to listen to more than one because everybody has their take on things. So don't just go with one person.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's tons of stuff on negotiating that you can find. There's oh my God, so much stuff. And don't be afraid to touch base with some of the other investors in the group. There's a couple hundred members in this group. Don't be afraid to touch base with them and say, hey, listen, who do you listen to? Who'd you learn from? How'd you learn? What do you do? And don't be afraid to ask for examples.
Yeah.
Or even the best way to do it is when they go to negotiate, see if you can go with them. Be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it. That's for everybody. Okay. A lot of us here, we help each other out. So some people think, well, I didn't want to ask. Ask. The answer is always no unless you ask. Okay. Any other questions? I think we're probably going to wrap up a little bit early over here. It's about 20 after. And I know we've gone over a lot. Hopefully this helped some people or answered some questions or maybe raised more. I don't know. But unless anyone else has any more questions, anything they want to go over, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I have a quick question. With all of everything going on, how long is it actually taking to rehab a house these days? It seems like everybody's busy.
Anybody want to answer that for Leslie?
Yeah.
I'll say a lot of the supply chain stuff has started to get cleared up as far as not being able to get things, and stuff is pretty readily available that you can substitute for things you would normally use. Like you're not going to go to the store and not be able to get a toilet. You're not going to go and not be able to get lock sets. You're not going to go and not be able to get paint. Like a lot of those supply issues with like drywall mud and lumber and all the stuff where you just couldn't buy it is not happening right now. However, the inflated pricing and the fact that there's not enough people willing to go and do the unskilled labor section of construction means that you're going to have a hard time finding people who can get the job done as quickly as they used to. And I think that's going to continue through the rest of this year, or at least through September, when the extra money from the federal government dries up, because right now the people who are working don't even want to work 4 days because they want to get their 1 day of unemployment and their $300 kicker from the government, because they're going to get that kicker whether they work 4 days or whether they work 0 days or whether they work 3 days. If they work 4 days, they get nothing. So there's a lot of restaurants and a lot of contractors that are dealing with their people saying, only schedule me for 3 days. I can't work the 4th because I need my government check. I mean, at least they're out there working, but they want to get their $350 or $400 a week on top of their regular pay. And people are letting them do it because they can't replace those people. So it's just the reality we're in right now, unfortunately.
I mean, yes, finding contractors is hard enough as it is. This has made it worse. But, for us, we're just, we've been somewhat on track. It's been a little bit slower than usual, but yeah, Andy, I agree with you. Once September hits and the money dries out, it'll be full time. I got to work 6 days this week. Okay, no problem. 7, I'll let you work 7. Anybody else?
Yeah, quick question. It's definitely off track for the group, but anyone have any experience with installing well, not installing, but going with solar for their business or personal residence. Just wondering how that works and
For your personal residence with the right incentives, it can be worth doing.
yeah,
It's a tougher sell because I talk to property managers all the time about this. It's a tougher sell because the ROI does not present itself for 15 to 18 years, and panels have a 20 to 25-year lifespan. So if you're talking about multifamily, which is most of the people I talk to about solar, signing up for a service that uses solar and cutting your electric bill that way works, and you can use it as part of your ESG, and you can do okay with controlling costs that way. But actually installing them and having to deal with the lease back paperwork, the potential damage to the roof, the long payoff that is beyond the holding time frame for, I will say, 95% of multifamily operators is pretty much a non-starter.
okay. What about for your personal residence? I was considering it, but
Personal residence with the tax incentives and stuff can absolutely be worth it, because it does cut your electric bill down. The biggest difference is that the payoff is shorter because you pay less for electric as residential than you do as commercial.
yeah.
So that's part of the reason why it can work for a personal residence and not work for multifamily.
And what about the net metering? I've heard they're making changes to that, or that possibly could even go away.
That I don't know yet because it's so regionalized based on the power company that you get your electricity from, that everybody's got a different program. Right now, there's not a lot of really good state incentives for it, but I would expect that to change just based on the administration. I would expect to see a resurgence of federal money like what was around during the Obama years.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi everyone. I'm a new member, so I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Wei Kong, and I'm a 19-year-old college student over at the U of R. And I recently became interested in real estate. And I ended up networking with some people to find this group. So I'm just very excited to just attend more of these meetings and learn from you guys. Yeah, so I just want to say hi. It's kind of weird doing an introduction at the very end of a meeting, but yeah, I just want to say hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. We'll get some great information here. Anyone else? We all set? All right. Let's go do real estate. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And
Thank you, Joe. Great meeting.
Thank you.
Fantastically good.
You guys have a great morning.
Okay,
Thanks, Joe.
thank you.
Take it easy, everybody. Thanks.
I'll stick around for just a couple of minutes, just in case for anybody else. Other than that, go do real estate.
Joe, I'm glad you said that. I was just about to hit the end meeting button.
Oh, it's all right. I didn't know.
Literally.
It's all right.
I had it
I
up.
mean, it was an intimate group this morning, so I know the evening meetings sometimes run like a half hour longer, so.
I think it was an excellent meeting. Well done, Joe. Scott, well done.
Yeah, I even took notes, Joe, so there you go.
I just figure you were adding up all your money.
No, hell, I need a spreadsheet for that. This is just actually.
Oh man, sometimes I like intimate groups because it's just you get a little bit more,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I know the evening meetings don't do.
Hey guys, I'm back on. It's Scott.
Scott.
Hey. Okay, I learned a valuable lesson today. Don't try to do this while traveling down the road, I guess we could say. I should have got up a little bit earlier, left the gym a little bit earlier, and got home on the Wi-Fi and hooked in. I missed the end of it. I got kicked off, I think, about 10:05 or so. I know I missed a lot, but it was a good meeting. What did what did I miss? Give me a couple of highlights.
I don't know. We sold this. Somebody called in about a storage unit at half price, and somebody else bought it.
That's good. Good. Nice. Yeah. I have no idea what's going on with my electronic devices. We'll say that. So, but no, it was a good meeting, and thanks for the reminder on the negotiating. I enjoyed that. I always enjoy it, and it's good reminders, for me, because sometimes we forget things, and the best deals we've made are the deals we didn't do, right? In a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Oh,
God, are you kidding me? I appreciate what you did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, like in the storage world, really get hung up on. They feel like they have to buy something, so they have a storage unit. It's like, man, just don't do it, So,
Nope.
yeah.
Nope. I'm sure some of the crazy people and prices that I know these things are selling for way over asking, and they leave no money for you. I wonder how many of them you pass over.
I'm sorry? What was that, Joe?
I wonder how many deals Scott's passed over because the prices were just insane.
Yeah. It's like buying, in my opinion, it'd be like buying a rental in the Rochester market now. It's, people are buying them on thin margin. It just doesn't make sense long term to do that. But I could be wrong. We've been wrong before. The market just keep continuing, and I got a notification, a house I owned on 21 Lenox Street, which, man, was the pit. I sold that thing for $35,000 2 years ago. I know the person bought it. They probably put 30 grand into it. Somewhere between 20 and 30, and it just sold at the end of May for what was it, $80,000.
I believe it. Crazy.
On Lennox?
Man, I'll tell you, it's crazy.
Especially, yeah.
So,
Well, a lot of people get personally invested and they don't treat it like a business. They treat it like their baby, and they tie their ego to it and their pride to it, and they make bad decisions. And it creates opportunities long term, right? So,
Yep. Wow.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yep. All right.
yeah.
Well, all right.
All right.
Everybody's all set
Well,
over
thanks,
here.
everybody. I will talk to everybody in 2 weeks.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Be
See you,
safe.
Scott. Be good.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
All right. Hey, one quick question. I won't be on for the general meeting next week. What are we covering at the general meeting?
So the general meeting is actually an in-person only session doing rehabs with Pat Gallagher, and it is on Saturday.
Okay.
So it will be recorded and it will be published behind the paywall. The morning meeting Pat is running for landlord support is going through, I think there's 3 different topics, and I'm having an ADHD moment. I do not remember what they are off the top of my head.
Fire escapes.
Yeah, that's right. Fire escapes, the current status of the market, and
I forget the third
something
one.
else specific to Rochester.
Probably, the.
Small claims court. That's what it is. Small claims court.
Oh, okay.
How it's working in Rochester currently. That's right.
Yeah, good. Well, I guess if I'm going to miss a general meeting, then next week Thursday is a good one to miss. So good.
Except it's Saturday now, Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's gonna be Saturday,
Yeah.
so it's the perfect one not to be at.
Right. Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, good. I hope everybody has a good day. Go buy something. Go sell something. Go make some money, and just be a good person. That's what it is. So, all right, everybody. Thanks, man.
Have a great day.
Super. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.